SIFUNA Edwin Watenya.
You came in when I realized you were coming in with a cutter.
Chair always protect me from Senator Chirargei. Mr. Speaker, I'm entirely proud of the two senators who have collaborated to put together this bill. Of course, Senator Kamara is a foremost educationist, renowned. And Senator Crystal Asige, I have the privilege of sitting next to her, Mr. Speaker. I can tell you that I am learning quite a number of things that I did not know, especially the perspective of the world from the point of view of somebody living with PWDs. I was moved by her anecdote about, or the example she gave of the 3 fish. It is a poignant reminder that, in fact, we must strive to understand the world other people live in, not necessarily just yours and the one that you are comfortable with, because there are many things that we take for granted that are not available in other people's worlds and other people's lives. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to commence my views on the bill itself, as I must, with the Constitution. Under Article 53, Mr. Speaker, basic education is expressed not just as a right, but a compulsory right. That means that all of us, all our children, do not have a choice. They cannot opt out of education because this is something that the Constitution has made compulsory. The realization of that compulsory basic education then depends on eliminating the barriers to access to that education that have been, both natural and unnatural barriers to the access that have been erected in the way, especially of people with disabilities. What we must do is that we want to eliminate these barriers to ensure that there is equal access to PWDs, to create an environment that that ensures there is equal access. And many of the things that we take for granted, Mr. Speaker, could be the very simple barriers that then deny that access for persons with disabilities. I have seen myself, because within the ODM party, we have many members who are persons living with disability. In fact, the chair of the PWD caucus in ODM, Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, is a person that I know, I have had the opportunity to work with, I have had the opportunity to campaign with. In fact, one of the things we did when we were acquiring the new Chungwa House, the headquarters of ODM party, because I was SG at that time, I ensured that there were 2 ramps installed both at the front entrance and the back entrance to allow Honorable Tim Wanyonyi access. And other persons with disabilities at that time, we had Honorable Denita Gatti also as a person whose mobility depended on a wheelchair. We have seen even at political rallies, persons with disability accessing the podium. Just accessing the podium at Uhuru Park or Kamukunji grounds is usually a very difficult task. Luckily, I have seen that Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, because he has been in Parliament for some time, at least he has the resources to afford a group of muscle men who then help him to access these places. But you can imagine if you are just a first-timer or somebody is trying to get into politics with that disability, it becomes very difficult. It has opened my eyes to very simple things, like every time we pick a venue for a meeting, you must always ask yourself if this venue is accessible to everyone. So I am happy that this bill tries to address some of the challenges of access to education by learners living with disability. If you look at Clause 5, Mr. Speaker, Clause 5B talks of a right to have information delivered in suitable, legible media of instruction. So that, Mr. Speaker, it is not just about having schools. Those schools must be able to deliver that information in the language in which the PWD can be able to understand. Then, Mr. Speaker, there is a provision on access to all school buildings and facilities with ease. That is what I was trying to discuss here with the example of Honorable Tim Wanyonyi. But what Senator Asige has opened my eyes to, Mr. Speaker, is something I never thought about. The bill talks about access to play areas, recreation, leisure, and sporting. My daughter, who is 6 years old, goes for swimming lessons every Saturday morning. And I was asking Crystal, how do you make a swimming pool, for instance, at a school, accessible to all persons with disabilities? So she was educating me here that there are things called grab rails I don't know if anyone has ever heard of them here before. Grab rails, slip-resistant tiles. She even described that the swimming pool has to have a certain slope. You know, the slope from the shallow end to the deep end has to have a certain gradient of, I think, 1.2. I don't even know what that means, but that's what she told me. So it is important to see things from this perspective, Mr. Speaker, that in fact, it is not just, school is not just about the classes and the classrooms, that even play and recreational activities, when other able-bodied students are partaking in these activities, we should not leave the PWDs out, and I'm happy that that particular component has been captured. Then the bill, Mr. Speaker, places certain responsibilities on the counties, and the responsibilities include providing this infrastructure that we're saying. If you're going to have all the public schools in Nairobi accessible to all persons, not just people on wheelchair, because disability takes many forms. Mr. Speaker, you should be able to invest in that infrastructure, and it is going to cost us money. It talks about setting up of resource centers and having a teacher in each school who is able to then instruct learners with disabilities. This, of course, will come with extra costs to our counties, which is why, as a foremost defender of devolution and a fighter for greater resources to go to our devolved units, I continue to insist that we as a Senate must do more to make sure that our counties are better resourced so that they can take care of all these new responsibilities we keep imposing upon them as a Senate. This is, I think, in the past few months, another bill that is adding a fresh responsibility that requires extra resources on the counties. You will remember we passed the vocational training centers bill as well, or act now, that also